I couldn't put it down. Authors love to hear readers say those words. We live to hear them, and so do our publishers. But what exactly is this mysterious literary essence that hooks a reader? What holds them so hard they simply have to keep reading, often long into the night? To emerging writers who want to break in, and published authors who want to produce a breakout book, I offer this one-word answer: emotion. Sounds simplistic? After all, you work hard on the many complex facets of our craft. You slave to hone your story's structure and to distill theme and chisel out perfectly sculpted sentences. And certainly, as writers, we must all do this work of craft. But structure and style are not ends in themselves. They're merely tools to produce the result that we want, a meaningful, emotional experience for the reader. When characters in a story move your reader to pity, or laughter, or loathing, or dread, or just the simple warmth of fellow feeling, that's what makes them keep reading and turning the pages. They crave to know what's going to happen to these people. They care. The details of craft drift past the reader like mist unless the hand of emotion reaches out to them and snags them and holds them. Mystery author Raymond Chandler said something very interesting on this subject. Here was a man famous for his stories full of action, and yet he said this: "My theory was that readers just thought that they cared about nothing but the action, that really, although they didn't know it, they cared very little for the action. The thing they really cared about, and that I care about, was the creation of emotion." The wise writer learns to use this knowledge to best effect. When I mentor writers, I use the word manipulate. Good writing means you're manipulating your reader. It's not a trick, and it's anything but shallow. It is instead a bonding with humanity's deepest consciousness. What moves us imprints us. The evoking of emotion is what turns the writer's craft into art. Here are 3 powerful ways to do it. I call it the 3 C's. Number 1, conflict. All stories are about conflict. A main character who has no problems, no challenges to overcome, is a boring character and is living in a non-story. The protagonist, your hero or heroine, wants and needs something and takes action to try to achieve it. The antagonist wants and needs something too, but their goal is in opposition to the protagonist's. The conflict between them gives rise to your story. Without an antagonist, your protagonist would go about his or her business and there would be no story. I once heard an interview with the author John le Carré, in which he talked about this concept of all stories revolving around conflict. He said, "The cat sat on the mat." That's not a story. But the cat sat on the dog's mat. That's the beginning of a story. Don't be intimidated by the word conflict. Conflict does not mean combat. It just means problems. What problems does this character face in trying to achieve his or her goal? And who's causing the problem? These counterbalanced characters, protagonist and antagonist, are at the heart of all good fiction. Your protagonist could be someone like Kathy Scarlett in Maeve Binchy's Scarlet Feather, launching her catering business in the face of her powerful mother-in-law's disapproval. Or 16-year-old Pi Patel in The Life of Pi, facing disasters on the high seas, dealing with the conflict of wild animals in his boat and inside his head. Or French military officer Georges Picard in Robert Harris's An Officer and a Spy, set in Paris in 1895, a man seeking justice against a cabal of army generals. Conflict for your character is the most powerful tool you have to evoke emotion in your reader. Conflict makes us care. Number 2, close relationships. Ever notice how many compelling stories are family stories? We care about people who are deeply involved with other people. Giving your characters close family ties produces not only drama in itself, it also allows the reader to empathize instantly. Why? Because all readers live in families too, so they instinctively empathize with the intense currents of familial relationships, whether supportive or toxic. Buffet your characters in these shifting currents. Your readers will feel it on a deeply visceral level. Let's say you're writing about a young man who's broke, in debt with student loans, and desperate to find work. He's been looking for a job for months with no luck, but he's hardworking and determined, and he finally gets a job, a really good job. And then someone in the company undermines him and steals his job. Now, if that someone in the company is a stranger, sure, we'll feel sorry for our hero. But what if the person who steals his job is his own brother? Now we really empathize. There are layers of personal history between these two men, layers of tension. Conflict from the most trivial to the most serious, when it occurs between characters who have close ties by blood or marriage, magnifies and intensifies what's at stake for both parties. Number 3, choice. No matter what a character says or how they appear to others, the only way they truly reveal themselves is by making choices under pressure. Choice under pressure reveals a person's real nature, the quiet, meek guy nobody notices who goes off to war and reveals a deep streak of the courage that saves his whole platoon. The loser, druggy kid living on the streets who gets pregnant and then reveals herself to be a loving and competent mother. The rich, comfortable CEO who has everything and then reveals his tortured self by embezzling from his own company. Extreme choice bears the soul. Force your characters to bear their souls. When a reader says of your characters, "Oh, I felt so sorry for him," or "That bitch, I hated her," or "That was so freaky, it gave me chills," or "I had tears in my eyes," you know you've done your job. You've produced a page-turner.